Well, one thing I wanted to address on, and I'm really interested to hear what Max has to say on this too, is the
Well, let's
idea
let him.
of free speech for free speech versus hate speech, right? Because for me, hate speech is just an authoritarian term that's used to shut down free speech. And if you truly believe in free speech, it's not to protect the views that you like, it's to protect the views that you don't like. So you're not standing up for what they're saying, you're standing up for their right to say it because you don't want to be targeted when you have something that others may like and then they try to shut you down. So that's what I see about free speech versus hate speech.
Bonjour, Maxime.
Hello,
Welcome.
how are you?
Very good. And you walked into the very first question, and we're going to use free speech, free expression to answer that question. So his question was using free speech, it's important to protect it, not just for our speech, but for everybody's speech. And it doesn't seem like the other side understands that when we're trying to fight for free speech, we're also fighting for their ability to have free speech. So the first question for you is, how are you going to maintain and help us ensure that we continue to have free speech?
Yes, right now in Canada, we have a clause in the criminal code against hate speech. And now the federal government is pushing another definition of hate speech, a larger definition of hate speech in different legislations. We don't need that. We had that definition in the criminal code for a lot of time. And so now it's a way for the government and politicians to censor us because, as you know, I can say something that you don't like, and that must be free speech. And you must be able, and I must be able to say what I want, and I must be able to insult you if I want to. So, in a free society, you must be able to discuss different point of view and being free to do that. But it's not the case right now because of our human rights, the different human rights tribunals all across the country at the provincial level. They're the kind of the police of thought. And you can complain and they will do an investigation, and maybe you will have to pay a fines and you'll be guilty of hate speech. But we must not go there. We must abolish and repeal all these legislation and only do what we did in the past. It is in the criminal code and that's it. But we don't need to have a new definition of hate speech. And that's what we have in our country. And that's why, people feel that they cannot express their point of view and they are sometimes silent. But if you want to change the society and express your point of view, you must be able to do that. I'm saying in my speeches, be part of the change, be the change, express your point of view. If you don't do that, if you stay silent, the radical left will win the debate. And a lot of people are doing that because they're afraid of the, speaking about something that is taboo today, like, the radical trans ideology. You need to have some courage and the courage of your conviction to express your point of view because you'll be a minority. And maybe, yes, people will say you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're anti-trans. And it's not everybody that can support that. So we must allow that discussion. And it's not happening in our country. Actually, for me as a politician, I've been canceled and shadow banned on Twitter and Facebook. And it's still the case on Facebook. So that's why I'm doing that battle. And that's why we created that party based on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And all our policies are in line with these principles.
Excellent, excellent. Now, hate speech is a broad term, and the definition of it is difficult. But we also have compelled speech, where you can only say certain things like gender pronouns. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, and we had a new bill in Canada, the Bill C-16, And Jordan Peterson told us about that a couple of years ago, that if the federal government is going ahead with that bill, and if that bill is in force, that will be the beginning of compelled speech. And he was absolutely right. But that bill passed, and now it is part of our legislation. And you have, it started by asking people to use the right pronouns, but nobody can force me. If I have a biological man in front of me, having a discussion with me, and that biological male think that is a female, and if he wants me to call him a she instead of a he, I'm not obliged to do that. I have the right to say what I want, but no, with that legislation, it's against the law, and so you can be sued for that. The best example was Jordan Peterson. So yeah, and our position as a political party is to repeal that bill, Bill C-16. We don't need that in our country if you are living in a real free country.
Yeah, and we've had a father in BC jailed over choosing to use the correct biological pronouns for his, I believe it was son, wanted to be a daughter. And that was horrible to see that people could be actually locked up for speech here in Canada.